Dennis O'Rourke.
Chairman, New Zealand First has listened intensely to what everyone has had to say in the previous stages of this bill, but we've now fully considered our position on it and we're going to vote against it. And we're going to vote against it for 6 very good reasons. 6 very good reasons, Mr. Chairman. The first one is this: democracy must not be frustrated. If people want to elect a person as their board member who is the board member in another area, then why should they not have the right to do that? If that's what they want to do, let them do it. That's called democracy. It's called free choice, and we don't see why people shouldn't have that free choice to exercise. Second one is this: we think that the electors of in the city of Auckland are intelligent and knowledgeable people. We think that they know whether a person is going to stand for another board or not, and we think that they can decide whether they wish to have that person or not as their board member. And so we should respect that knowledge and that intelligence, and we shouldn't preempt that. There is no reason, no good reason to do so. And the third point I would make is this: think about the number of commercial boards that there are where board members have multiple members of various boards of various companies. They seem to be able to handle that, even companies that are in competition with each other at some levels. They seem to be able to handle that all right. And think about the statutory boards which are set up, which this government, along with many other governments, have appointed people to multiple boards too as well. They seem to be able to handle all of that without any difficulty, but there's suddenly a difficulty with local boards. What a load of rubbish that is. That is absolute drivel, and everyone here should recognise it. And fourthly, Mr. Chairman, the principle that should be applied here is this: that there is a democratic process which should always, as a matter of principle, be kept as free and unrestricted as possible. This bill infringes against that principle, and it is a very important principle. If we're going to mess with people's democratic rights, there needs to be a damn good reason for doing so, and this bill isn't a damn good reason. I've listened to the 3 reasons given by Mr. Shearer, and they were all nonsense. They all had very little impact on me, and I'm sure they'll have very little impact on the people of Auckland as well, so I reject them in their entirety. The 5th reason is this: there is no public clamour for what is in this bill. I haven't heard anyone, whether they be in Auckland or in any other part of the country, say we want this. So where did it come from? Was it Mr. Naru's own nightmares that they arise from, or what is it? Because I don't know what the source of this is. It's certainly not from the public. And the 6th reason is this, Mr. Chairman: why, if this was such a great idea and so really necessary, why is it being applied to Auckland only? If it was so great, why isn't it in legislation covering the whole country? Why haven't people thought of it before if it was such a wonderful idea and it was so necessary? The reason is that it's not a wonderful idea and it's not necessary. So there's 6 good reasons, and I want to specifically deal with the claim that there could be a conflict of interest. Well, there are conflicts of interest that occur with people on commercial boards all of the time. And there are procedures that are adopted to deal with those conflicts of interest. Exactly the same thing could and should be done with elected boards for the Auckland City. And in any event, nobody has yet said in this House that I've heard what the problem is as far as conflicts of interest are concerned. I mean, how can there be a conflict of interest between one board and another? They deal with totally different areas. Where is the conflict of interest? I just don't understand that. That is a nonsense argument and should be totally disregarded. And Mr. Twyford said, what if MPs could stand in more than one electorate? Well, I've just had a look at the Electoral Act, and surprise, surprise, I can't actually find any prohibition against a person standing for two electorates at the same time. So perhaps Mr Twyford should read the legislation before he comments, because he's just given us, Mr Chairman,
Dennis O'Rourke.
he's just given us another reason why this bill should not be passed. And so for all those reasons, Mr Speaker, this bill is really not required. It is retrograde. It is anti-democratic. It achieves nothing because there is no problem to fix. And if people think there's a conflict of interest, then tell me how. And tell me, even if there was, how it couldn't be managed. This bill is utter nonsense. It's rubbish. It should be thrown in the waste paper basket right now. Yeah.